All right. Good morning, school. Welcome back. Happy Friday. Welcome to episode 69 of the School of Shred, the one and only, baby, your holistic health and fitness show. Good morning, everybody. Q&A Friday number 11. So let's jump on here and let's get these questions answered today. How's everybody's week going so far? Everybody doing good? I hope you're all doing good as we navigate through September. I can't believe it's already almost the end of September right now. It's going to be a weird year here, folks. We've had a weird 2020. I think people are going to celebrate 2021 in January real hard. What do you think? It's been a weird one. So today we got some good questions. We got 5 questions that we're going to be going over. But before we do that, if you guys are interested in jumping into the School of Shred and getting into the Online Health Academy, there is a link that I'm actually going to show on our YouTube and our Facebook right now. So you can check that out. If you go to that link right there, scheduleonce.com/JohnReed1, you can schedule a consultation, a free 1-hour sit down with me in a virtual atmosphere, of course. And learn about how to enroll in the School of Shred. The show is here at 9 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Shout out to Instagram. And then it's also on iTunes and Spotify. So with that said, let's get started. So we got 5 questions. I'm going to go over all of them real quick and give you a brief overview of what we're going to be hitting today. So can you drink too much water is the first question. Second question is going to be, can you have too many probiotics? Somebody asked that, which is good. Third question is it bad to eat the same foods each week? Number 4 is best rep range to build muscle. I feel like we already hit this one, but this is how it goes. This is a common one. Best rep range to build muscle. So we're gonna tackle that bore. And then we got number 5 today is what's your favorite book, which is really cool because I've been talking a lot about books. So somebody asked what my favorite book is, which is going to be a hard one to answer. So as we get into this thing, if you guys can do me a favor and go ahead and throw a flex emoji in the comments, let me know where you're at and where you're located. Let everybody know where Shred Nation's at, baby, where we be. We are strong. There we go. We got people jumping in, commenting. We got flex emojis going down. People are getting strong in the comment section. If you guys aren't here, you're missing out. But if they're not here, they can't hear me say that, can they? All right. So number 1, let's get into it here. Woo! All right. So can you drink too much water? I'm drinking 1 to 2 gallons a day and still thirsty. Yeah, you can drink too much water. That's what drowning is, right? No. You can drink too much water. And really what it comes down to is like the 1 to 2 gallons a day if you're still thirsty. A lot of times what happens is you're taking in too much water and not enough minerals. So you're actually dehydrating yourself. And I've had this happen before, especially in the summer months and when I'm drinking a lot of water and eating less calories if I'm trying to get lean. And so I'm filling up with water. And what happens is your kidneys, you start to excrete sodium and potassium and all of those guys, all of your electrolytes. So what you want to do if you're drinking a lot of water and you still feel thirsty, like you're measuring your water and you're drinking over a gallon, for some reason you're still thirsty. The low-hanging fruit here that I want you to do is just take a little bit of salt and throw it in your water, or you can start salting your foods more. Okay. And so what that helps do is it helps get sodium up. So you retain a little bit more water. If you're drinking a lot of water, you need to also be considering that electrolyte balance. And so supplementing with magnesium, as I said, using sodium is good. Potassium, calcium, those guys are really, really important. Magnesium, a few different ways that you can do the magnesium thing, which really helps with muscle cramps, is you can do magnesium soaks. So you can do baths. That's really the best way to get magnesium is through the skin. And so if you do like an Epsom salt bath, that can get your magnesium levels up. Magnesium is also found in nuts and seeds like almonds and whatnot, but you're just not going to get a ton of it. And then you can supplement with it. I take a supplement that has numerous forms of magnesium because they have to cut it with a lot of different things to create the bioavailability of it. So magnesium's good. Potassium, you got, bananas, potatoes, avocados got potassium in them. So if those guys are in your plan, and then salt, sodium is good. Iodized salt is good. Iodine is good for the thyroid and thyroid function. You need to be getting iodine in your diet. However, I do Himalayan pink salt because there's like 89 additional minerals in it, which is good for your bone mineral density. And if you don't get enough minerals, what happens is your body will pull from your bones and to get the minerals that it needs, which is not a good thing. So we want strong, healthy bones, especially as we age. We don't want to run the risk for osteoporosis or osteopenia, which can lead to osteoporosis. So getting minerals is really important. And so that's why I like the pink salt. I try to find high grade pink salt because I've heard that, there's companies that cut corners and they like to, just dye their salt pink and give it to you that way. So like anything, you got to do your research and you got to find the best product and you got to spend your money. You got to put your money where your mouth is, folks, literally. So that's a great way to do that. But so if you're doing pink salt and you're not getting iodine, what are other ways you could get iodine, right? And this is off on a tangent about iodine and thyroid function. Well, I'd like to eat seaweed. That's like a really good way. One of the main ways to get it, one of the nice natural ways. So there's seaweed snacks that you can get, dehydrated seaweed, or you can do some iodized salt and just mix it. So you mix the iodized salt, you mix it with the pink salt, and so you get, kind of the benefits of both worlds there. Iodized salt is just the table salt, just the white salt. So anyway, that can help you with the thirst thing. If you're drinking a lot of water and you're noticing that you're still thirsty, you could be excreting a lot of minerals. And so what happens on a low carbohydrate diet is the kidneys can actually excrete electrolytes. And when you're on a higher carb diet, you actually retain electrolytes. And so if you're, on a diet and you're trying to lose some body fat and get your body healthy and kind of get your body composition to a better place, you very well could be on a lower carbohydrate diet. Nothing wrong with that. Everything's great with that. If you feel really good, awesome. But what happens is you might be actually dropping a lot of electrolytes. So just consider getting those in. And that would be the first place to look before you start to look at things like going to the doctor and whatnot. Because if you're excessively thirsty, that can be, start to, get into the realm of a diabetic issue and whatnot. So that's question one. Now question two, that's a very good question though, because that's definitely happened. That's happened to me in the past before as well, that drinking a lot of water, but still being thirsty. So moving on, question two. All right. We got Land of the Kirk. I'm just seeing the comments now. Land of the Kirk, baby. We got people down in Kirkland, Washington. Shout out to Kirkland. Shout out to Ballard. What's up? What's up? All right. So question two, y'all. Here we go. Can you have too many probiotics? So, a lot of, I've talked a lot about this and probiotics being good for the gut. That you want to address the gut and gut health. Correct any leaky gut type issues you might be having, where the foods that you eat, you might be getting an immune response to, where your body starts to attack itself, which is kind of weird. It's like having a bunch of, guarding pit bulls at your house and they attack the robber and then they start attacking you afterwards. You don't want that. You want good dogs, just like the cells in your body. You want good cells. You don't want your body to attack itself, these little white blood cells. So probiotics are good for that. So probiotics bring in good bacteria to the gut that we need. We have 10 bacteria to one human cell in our bodies. So, there's trillions of bacteria in our body. A lot of them reside in our large intestine. And so what happens is we can take things like kombucha and sauerkraut and kimchi and, even, sriracha, if it's I didn't know that until recently because I've been making this stuff, but that's actually a fermented lactobacillus strain as well. But these live culture foods, they're good to help soothe the gut and increase gut health and whatnot, but you can do too much. So I would just recommend that you keep it within means. You don't go overboard. Some is good. More is not always better. So if you're getting any type of, digestion issues, excessive bloating, which is what we're trying to correct when we have probiotics. If you're getting bloating, if you're getting stomach pain, these are signs that you might be, overpopulating these bacteria. And we want to be careful with that because we don't want to overpopulate certain strains of bacteria. And this is why it's good to rotate your probiotic sources. You want to do a little research into what strains, we could supplement with and kind of change around there. So that's a really good question, but you can do too much. So, you keep it within means. Usually where I start is you just have 1 to 2 servings of a probiotic a day. So that's like a sauerkraut or kimchi, and you're typically going to be fine with that. Now, if you're eating a jar of kimchi a day, I'm not sure how that will turn out long term, but that doesn't sound really satisfying either. So, like anything, like all this stuff done in moderation to help your overall health, not going overboard with it and, drinking 3 kombuchas a day and whatnot. For me, I typically, I kind of rotate probiotic sources, where I'll go real heavy on ones. Sometimes like I'll go heavy on kombucha for a while. I might have 1 or 2 of them a day. And then I start to kick back on them and I rotate. And then I might do something like kimchi for a while. But I definitely try to get at least 1 serving a day. And I recommend that to people. You find what your best probiotic source is that you like to implement into your diet. And you have to just, how are bowel movements? How is digestion? How is bloating? You have to self-select if you're, and learn your body. You have to self-select if this is right for you or not. So, but it's something to explore, but you definitely can't have too many. So like I said, you're looking for signs of, any abdominal pain, bloating or diarrhea, or, the idea behind getting probiotics in is that it should improve your digestion. So if you're, being really aggressive with it and your digestion's getting worse, well, then that could be a sign that there's some more issues going on and you might want to seek professional advice for that. So that's a good question though. All right. Question 3 here. Is it bad to eat the same foods each week? I find it easier this way. What this person, I don't really know. They find it easier to eat the same foods each week. I think that's what this person means. So is it bad to eat the same foods each week? This thing's a perspective shift. So for gut health, we want to diversify. So if you can, like long-term thinking is that you want to be rotating, if you can, several times a week or at least every week. So say if you were to eat primarily, you prepped up a bunch of steak and broccoli, right? And you're doing olive oil this week and maybe some potatoes. And that's primarily what you're eating this week. For ease of it, you prep it up on a Sunday. You go through this procedure of, prepping everything up. Then you just disperse it each day. So you kind of have some food made up. So you're not relying on convenience foods when you're at work. And then next week, the best thing to do would be to rotate it. So you find another list of sources that agree with your body. So say, for example, if that was, chicken, the next week you might do chicken thighs and then switch the green vegetable to maybe green beans. And then switch your carb source to maybe like a rice or a sweet potato. Again, if these foods are, or what agree with your body. And so that's kind of the way to health. And then, if you're using a fat instead of, olive oil this week, you might trade it out for like a avocado oil. Me personally, the benefits of these oils are so profound that I use all oils every week. I'm always using, I try to get at least 1 serving olive oil in a day. It's got the oleocanthols in it, which are good for brain function and brain health over time. They help get rid of beta amyloid plaque. So that's something that I have a really high grade cold pressed olive oil in my day every day. Like last night I got home, I got some new olive oil last night and I got home and I took a big swig of it first thing when I walked in. And my lovely lady, she's just was kind of cringing. But I like the olive oil. So it's a superfood. So I take just, big old pull of it, big old swig of it every day. But that's like diversifying. And so what that does is that actually helps gut health, and it's introducing different types of amino acid profiles, different types of sugar strains, different types of nutrient profiles and synergistic basically complexes of nutrients, right? So a lot of times not a lot of times, this is the way you digest food, is you need supplemental nutrients to digest and absorb certain nutrients, right? And so this is the thing that when we start to extract things, and this is something that we do with Western medicine, is where we extract one component, right? And then like Chinese medicine, they like to use the synergy of a lot of components and what's the reaction that you get from everything, which is more of that old school way of thinking, which is part of this idea at the School of Shred of relearning and rediscovering. Rediscovering that whole food is going to give you a synergistic, it's going to create a synergistic effect because it's giving you nutrients in the proper combinations that your body needs so it knows what to do. And so by rotating that around, that can help increase gut health and just overall health. And it's also rotating the amount of vitamins and minerals you're getting in different ways. And so it's beneficial. But like I said, keeping it in perspective, if you're just starting out, there's certainly nothing wrong with if you feel like it's a big, huge challenge and overwhelms you for some reason. And I have clients that this happens to. If you get overwhelmed by having to prep numerous types of, say, protein sources like meats and numerous carb sources every week or every other week, in the beginning, just focus on perspective here. You can eat the same thing for a while, but eventually you want to do is become a black belt in this thing, and you want to be rotating as much as possible. And so, now like on a given day, if I've been doing this for 10 years now. And so I'm usually having 3 different of each category every week. And so I'm trying to rotate frequently. So I might have, brisket and then ground beef and then steak. No, I'm just kidding. That's all red meat. But I'll have different cuts of red meat. I mean, that does matter, organ meats and whatnot. They all have different vitamins and minerals in them. But then chicken and fish and just going back and forth and rotating those guys. Just to kind of throw curveballs at the body a little bit and get a well-rounded, diversified nutrient profile in. So again, keep it in perspective. It's okay to eat the same foods every week, but long-term, we really want to have diversity. It just depends on where you're at, but diversity for the win. All right, question 4, best rep range to build muscle. So this is a good one. This is a common one. This is, it's always an important one, right? So we've gone over this before, and I've said it depends. It depends on your goal. It depends on the exercises that you are selecting. It depends on how you're executing them. I'm much more concerned with the how than I am the what. So how do you do something? What is the intention, which is how are you trying to execute this thing? When you load up an exercise, what are you thinking about when you're doing it? Are you mindlessly going through the motions and just listening to music and hoping that the forces that you're loading with are going to cause a contraction? Are you actually invested in the contraction and you're creating that before you load it? See, the idea with really executing on a high level is that when you go to load something, it's just a complement to what you can already do within the given muscles that you want to train beforehand. And what I mean by that is if I go to load something, like say I'm doing a dumbbell chest press, I want to be able to contract my muscles before I even load it. And so if I'm in that plane, if I lay down, if say I have 5 pounds, which is overly light, I'm trying to actually be able to create the neuromuscular connection with that light weight of actually contracting my pec fibers before I start to load it with heavier weight. And so that's the how. Like, what's the goal of the exercise? If the goal of the exercise is to hit a particular muscle, because your hope is that you want to try and grow that muscle, how do you execute that? Then after you figure out how to execute that and you're getting sensation there and there's a connection there with that muscle, then you can start to worry about the what, which is how to load it, what the program split might look like, what your monthly periodization routine might look like. And so the best rep range, honestly, would be a combination of all of them over time, because the idea is, and this is, everything that I've learned, this is where my thought process goes now. If I have somebody who wants to grow muscle, the reality is this stuff is theories. Okay. We have a sliding filament theory. All this stuff is theories, just like anything in science. Okay. So, we have to test these things, but there is no one exact, answer. It's a combination of all of them, which is the exact answer. It's about exploring though. And so I think the most intelligent way to build muscle that I've found over time that I feel like works the best is trying to explore every type of stimulus. So we have execution down. We know how to exercise. We know how to load the muscles that we want to train. Okay, so we're going to assume that we have that done now. So now we know how to load our muscles. So now when we go to get in there, what do we do? What rep range do we do to build muscle? Well, we can look at doing something like a linear periodization. Okay, and what linear periodization is where we work at a time block. So we do like a 4-week cycle of training where you might select all your exercises to do a 3x5. Okay, like a maximal strength. I'm not saying this is exactly what you need to do. You could do it in the flip flop, but I'm just saying 3x5 on all exercises, nice, slow, and controlled, limiting inertial effects, lifting safely. I can't stress that enough. And so doing that for 4 weeks, and then you change it. Then you go 3x10, right? So now you've increased your rep ranges, you've increased your volume. And then what happens is you do that for 4 weeks, and then you would switch to like 3x15. Okay, and then 3x50, 3 sets of 15 reps. And so when you do that, then you can start to maybe do some supersets because you're doing more of this lactic acid threshold training. And so in the arc of that thing, what you're doing is you're training from, what some certifications would say, some personal training certifications and some knowledge out there would say you go from training your white fast twitch fibers on a very low rep range. So you're training like this power and maximal strength. You're trying to work on the size of the myofibrils, which are the little muscle fibers. Okay, they get thicker over time when you train them with heavy load that's directed properly. And then you go into something like a traditional hypertrophy from like 8 to 12 reps. Now you're training more of these red fast twitch fibers, which is a different fiber type. And then when you go higher reps, 15 is usually not cutting it. Like one of the, some of the knowledge out there is like 20 and above. I have a mentor who says, even running a marathon is, obviously you're using slow twitch fibers. So you might do 30,000 reps of, hip flexion when you're doing a running event. That's all slow twitch. There's a huge gradient here. We could pick apart what I'm saying, but just for like the general idea, anything from 15 to 25 reps could be slow twitch muscle fiber training, which is more that lactic acid accumulation. There's 2 main ways that you can grow muscle that I've talked about before that we know of right now. And that is, number 1 is mechanical damage, which would be load. Okay, so mechanical damage meaning you're creating, a damage through the heavy load, right? So this 3x5 or 3x10 that I'm talking about. And then the other way is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is basically nutrient and blood accumulation inside the muscle. This is also called metabolic waste. So 2 main ways you can grow muscles. You have metabolic waste and you have mechanical damage. And so it makes sense to go through different versions of training that. If your goal is building muscle, you go through different cycles and you explore. And furthermore, the deeper I've gotten into this thing, now I also like to look at output per contractile length. And so, say like you have your triceps. I don't know if you guys know this, but your triceps are a double joint muscle. So they go over the elbow. So they're elbow extensors if they contract. And they're also shoulder extensors if they contract. A lot of people don't know that. So the degree of that your shoulder is in actually affects your tricep recruitment. So say if your arm is behind your spine and you're in shoulder extension, okay, it's kind of hard if you're just listening to this right now, but you could be in a shortened tricep position in shoulder extension and elbow extension. So you might select an exercise that's doing that, right? And then maybe you have one where you go into shoulder flexion where you bring that arm up over your head. A lot of times people do it as a tricep stretch where they hold their elbow up over their head. Well, that's going to be a nice lengthened position now. And you have all these different versions of muscular length that you might want to explore over time. So not just selecting mid-range exercise constantly. It does matter. And this is where a lot of physiology will come into it, understanding where muscles attach and at their different length, which can get, I understand that can get, very technical. But anyway, the best rep range to build muscle would be number 1, mastering execution and actually firing the muscle you want. But then rep ranges, I would hit all of them over time. I explained linear periodization, and then daily undulating periodization is where you basically do on Monday, you might do a 3x5. On Wednesday, you might do a 3x10, 3 sets of 10. If you guys don't know what 3x5 or 3x10 means. And then Friday, you might do 3 sets of 15 reps on all of your reps. So you're basically doing 3 programs in 1 week. That's called daily undulating periodization. Those are 2 main ways that people like to program the how. Okay, but remember, or the what. The what. But the how is really where you want to focus a lot of your efforts, because if you don't know how to execute something and you just continue to load it, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. So, great question though. And you guys keep asking that, we'll keep answering it. Cause like I said in the beginning of the show, I think we've had that question before, but it's an important one. Okay. So last one, question 5, what's your favorite book? So the cool thing is I've been talking a lot about reading, and I've been reading a lot. I've been experimenting with speed reading. I've been experimenting with smart reading. I've been, really back in touch with a lot of things that were run by me in my early 20s. That I heard before, and then I've gotten back into in the challenging times of COVID, of just personal development and just spirit training in myself. And so reading has been a huge one. So, I've been talking a lot about reading, and I honestly, over the last several months, I have really fallen in love with reading in a big way. And the cool thing is my girlfriend, she loves to read. She's a big reader. Really down to earth woman, and like grew up reading, no TV around. And so it's been really positive, because like our TV time has just gone way down, to nothing, because between reading books and learning and trying to learn everything I want to learn on a day-to-day basis, and then playing guitar, which is my favorite hobby, which grounds me completely. It's my mindfulness practice, one of them. But, between all of those, there's just no TV time, which is totally all right with me. So I've been talking about reading a lot. I've been hyping it up. Leaders are readers. It is one of the most important things I think we can do is learn. And when you have somebody that, condenses their whole career in a book, that right there that's a free mentor. Well, not free. I mean, maybe a $10 book, but they just condense their whole career. And if you have a bookshelf where you have these dudes hanging out on your bookshelf, you now have, a bookshelf full of mentors that you can go back to. And one of the things that I started looking at recently was, to revisit books, like have a baseline amount of books that you read, that you find value in. Don't worry about trying to absorb every stitch of information that's in them when you read them initially. Read through them, know the idea of the book. You're looking for ideas. You're not looking for every single word, because you're never going to learn everything that this author, it maybe took them 40, 50 years to make, or 20 years of their profession to create that book. You're never going to absorb all of that in one read. So you want to continually read these books and go back to them. And I thought that was really great. So that's kind of what I've been doing, which is like, I have all my homies hanging on the bookshelf, and I'll go back to them. And there's certain authors that I really love. So with that said, I'm just reading a question here. Somebody, funny comment. All right. So anyway, so books, my favorite book. I'll say my favorite author is Napoleon Hill. So Napoleon Hill, I have my Instagram tripod sitting on a stack of books right now, actually. Or else I'd show you guys. But Napoleon Hill, he was born in the 1800s, the late 1800s. His mentor was Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. A big part of the steel industry and whatnot, steel investor, steel creator, all that good stuff way back in the day. And this guy was really obsessed with understanding personal achievement. And so when I want to just bathe my brain, or wash my brain from the toxins that life can bring, I read his stuff. All of it is good. The book that changed my life is, I've said it before, is Success to a Positive Mental Attitude. So that one, and it basically just goes through how your attitude is really what shapes your life. It shapes the fork in the road of every decision you have to make. The average human makes 35,000 decisions a day. If you hypnotize yourself into a positive mental attitude, and you get into that type of a hypnotic rhythm, you start to take the fork in the road of, reaching your goals and, going through life with life. not going through it as a zombie. And so, because the reality is we think of like hypnotize as like, oh, that's not a good thing. You guys, trance, it happens whether you like to acknowledge it or not. When you're not thinking about how to drive your car, you're in trance. If you don't, remember how you started this episode today, you're in trance. Like we are always in trance. And so it would make the most sense for us to actually try and create positive trance in our life, because you're going to train yourself one way or another. You're either going to train a negative mental attitude or a positive mental attitude. And what that book did for me was really, through explaining so many different stories of people like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and all of these great figures that did great things and rose to great heights in their lives. They didn't stop when the going got tough. They pulled into it. And one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about throughout all of his books is that each failure or temporary defeat brings with it the seed of equivalent advantage. The seed. Okay. And that's the thing. You have to germinate it and let it grow. You're not guaranteed success just because something bad happened to you. You have to find that seed and go plant it. Okay. And then you have to germinate it, let it grow, and put the work in. And so I find that his books, they fire me up all the time. So Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude might be my favorite, but that's all of his books really go over a lot of the similar stuff, which is definiteness of purpose, having creative vision, organized thought, staying concentrated, staying focused on your goal, not allowing externals to mess with your mindset, and realizing that failure is an inevitable part in the success journey. All of his books go over that. So you could read something like I'm looking at right now that I just finished today that I read this week, How to Own Your Own Mind from Napoleon Hill. I have another one up here called 3 Feet from Gold. I have Outwitting the Devil is probably my favorite. It's basically this interview that Napoleon did with the devil, which is how does he hold people back from their potential? And it's this great kind of hypothetical story of it's a Q&A session for about 200 pages of like, how does the devil control people? And that devil could be your religious devil if you want, or it could be, your ego. Like there's many ways that you can take that book. And so I love that book. That might be my favorite. But then Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude is always a win as well. There's so many good books, you guys, though. I mean, there's so many good books. There's, my favorite, dietary book is probably Deep Nutrition from Dr. Kate Shanahan. Talks about epigenetics and why food quality matters. She presents a great case in that, and talks about what polyunsaturated fats, how toxic they can be. And then another good one is The Obesity Code from Jason Fung. It's like that one has it quotes only human research on like dietary studies, and it starts to look at like the lipid hypothesis and insulin and calories and all this stuff that's like thrown out there, like to eat less, exercise more, and it challenges that and talks about fasting. So, those are good. I mean, I honestly, I got a bookshelf full of books that I like, and I kind of like them all equally. So what I will say is Napoleon Hill's my favorite author, though. So if that kind of helps you answer the question. But the reality is there's so many good books out there. I feel like reading and getting books is the secret to your success. It's really the secrets of the world are in books. And the amazing thing is books stay around long after people pass away. And so the fact that Napoleon Hill wrote a book in the early 1900s that's affecting the way that I operate right now in 2020 is pretty powerful. That guy, I think he passed away in 1970 or something like that. So he was very prolific in writing about mindset to like the Great Depression and stuff like that. So, and that's what a lot of these guys now are talking about, like Tony Robbins and these actual like mindset coaches. They're new versions of Napoleon Hill, and it's all great. It's awesome. So anyway, those are my favorite books. That's episode. Look, we got people hanging out. So this is great. 30 minutes in, we go all day. What do you guys want to talk about? No, that's episode 69, Q&A number 11, Q&A Friday. I hope you guys got some value in this. And you had a good week here at the School to Shred. With that, I want you guys to stay strong and healthy in body, stay relentless and energized in spirit, and stay determined in your pursuits this weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, day by day in every way, get better and better. All right. So go shred the weekend, and I'll see you guys back here on Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time for the next week of learning. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday.